Captain Borum watched the radar screen with growing concern. 3 more unauthorized ships had entered Earth's solar system in the past hour. His fingers moved quickly across the communication panel. Unidentified vessels, this is Earth Orbital Defense. You are entering restricted space. State your purpose and await clearance. The response came back cheerful and unconcerned. Earth Defense, this is tourist vessel Wandering Star. We have 40 passengers excited to visit your beautiful world. No clearance needed under council law. Borum felt his stomach sink. Wandering Star, you are violating Earth security protocols. You must wait for proper authorization before landing. Sorry, Captain, the alien pilot replied, but the council voted. Your ban was rejected. We are coming down. Borum immediately opened a channel to his superior. Sir, they are ignoring our warnings. Should I activate defensive measures? Negative, came the tired response. The council made their decision. We cannot fire on civilian ships. Let them land, but track them closely. Alert ground teams immediately. Borum watched helplessly as the tourist ship descended toward Seoul. He activated the emergency beacon that would warn military units across the city. They had done this drill 100 times in the past month. Now it was real. On the ground, Myung sat in a dark room filled with computer screens. She was only 23 years old, but she had been recruited into Earth's intelligence services because of her skills. Right now, those skills were being pushed to their limit. I have the ship's passenger manifest, she reported to her team leader. 42 aliens from 17 different species. They are landing at Incheon Airport in 10 minutes. Her team leader, an older man named Daishik, rubbed his tired eyes. Contact all tracking units. I want surveillance on every single one of those passengers from the moment they step off that ship. What if something happens? Myung asked quietly. Then we respond as fast as we can, Daishik replied. And we pray we are fast enough. The Wandering Star landed safely. Its passengers emerged excited and chattering in dozens of languages that the translators struggled to process. Their tour leader, an amphibian creature named Ixtar, was particularly enthusiastic. Welcome, my friends, to Earth, Ixtar announced to his group. Home of the mysterious humans who tried to keep us away. But we are here now, and we will show the galaxy that there is nothing to fear. The tourists took pictures and sampled Earth food and marveled at human architecture. For 2 days, everything seemed normal. Myung watched them through security cameras, her tension slowly easing. Maybe the warnings had been exaggerated. Maybe Earth's government was being too cautious. Then 3 tourists disappeared. It happened during the night. Security footage showed them leaving their hotel to explore the city. They walked down a street in the Gangnam district, laughing and talking. Then they turned a corner and vanished. Myung saw it happen in real time. One moment they were visible on one camera. The next moment, nothing. She immediately sounded the alarm. Missing tourists. Gangnam District Sector 7. Initiating search protocols. Military teams flooded the area within minutes. They searched every building, every alley, every basement. Borum himself came down from the orbital station to coordinate the search. They found the bodies 18 hours later in an abandoned warehouse near the Han River. Borum stood over the remains and felt sick. He had seen death before, plenty of it. But this was different. The 3 aliens had been torn apart with savage violence. Blood covered the walls and floor. The bodies were barely recognizable. What did this? Asked one of the military investigators, a young woman who looked ready to vomit. Secure the area, Borum ordered, not answering her question. Full quarantine. No one speaks about what we found here. Official stories that the tourist had an accident. But Captain, that is an order, Borum said sharply. The news spread quickly despite attempts to control it. Ixtar demanded answers, standing in a government office and shouting at human officials. My passengers are dead. You killed them. We did not kill anyone, said the official, a tired-looking woman named Unji. There are dangers on Earth that we warned about. Your people went into an unsecured area after dark. We could not protect them. Dangers. Ixtar's skin flushed angry red. What dangers? Show me these creatures that killed my people. Unji could only shake her head. The investigation is ongoing, but the deaths did not stop. More ships arrived, ignoring Earth's desperate warnings. A diplomatic shuttle carrying a council inspector vanished near Mars. Search teams found it 3 days later, drifting in space. Everyone aboard was dead, the interior covered in the same savage violence. In Tokyo, a group of 5 alien journalists investigating the Earth situation were found massacred in a subway tunnel. In New York, 2 traders were killed in broad daylight, their bodies discovered in Central Park. Myung worked 20-hour days trying to track the pattern. She accessed databases that most people did not even know existed. What she found terrified her. The incidents were not random. Every death happened in areas that had been marked in classified military files. Areas designated as hot zones or contaminated sectors. Areas where something else was hunting. She tried to report her findings to Daishik, but he cut her off. "You are accessing information above your clearance level," he said coldly. "Stop immediately." "But I found something important." "I know what you found," Daishik interrupted. "And you will forget you saw it." "That is not a request." Myung felt betrayed, but she obeyed. She deleted her search history and tried to focus on her assigned tasks. But she could not forget what she had seen in those files. The dates going back 70 years. The casualty reports. The desperate attempts at containment. Earth had been fighting a war and nobody outside the planet knew about it. Meanwhile, the galactic news networks were having a field day. A correspondent named Thalvin broadcast daily updates about the Earth murders, accusing humans of killing aliens to maintain their isolation. "The evidence is clear," Thalvin said into his camera. "Humans are violently attacking peaceful visitors. The Council must intervene before more innocent lives are lost." The Council convened an emergency session. Trade Minister Cross stood and demanded action. "Earth has murdered 17 galactic citizens in 6 months," he declared. "This cannot stand. I propose immediate sanctions and a Council investigation team." High Arbiter Velkson agreed. Ambassador Jiwon will be summoned to explain her government's actions. When Jiwon appeared before the Council again, she looked like she had aged years in just months. Her hair showed streaks of gray that had not been there before. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. "Honored Council," she began, but Cross interrupted her. "Spare us your diplomatic language, human. Why is Earth killing our people?" "We are not killing anyone," Jiwon said, and her voice cracked with exhaustion. "We are trying to protect them. Please, I am begging you, stop sending ships to Earth, recall those already there. Every day more arrive and we cannot guarantee their safety." "Cannot or will not?" Velkson asked coldly. Jiwon looked directly at him, and in her eyes was something that made even the High Arbiter pause. It was not anger or defiance. It was pure desperate fear. "Cannot," she whispered. "We are doing everything in our power, but there are not enough of us. Not enough soldiers, not enough resources. Every unauthorized visitor makes it worse. Please, stop this before it is too late." "Too late for what?" Cross demanded. Jiwon opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. She looked down at her hands. "I am not authorized to say." The Council erupted in angry shouting. Velkson called for order, then made his pronouncement. "The Council will send an investigator to Earth with full authority. You will cooperate completely and reveal these supposed dangers. If we find evidence of human aggression, Earth will face severe consequences." As Jiwon left the chamber, she sent another message home. "They are sending investigators. We cannot hide it anymore. Prepare for full disclosure." The response came back immediately. "Denied. Maintain secrecy at all costs," Jiwon wanted to scream. Investigator Neela stepped off the shuttle onto Earth's surface and immediately felt uncomfortable. Not because of the gravity or the atmosphere, both of which suited her mammalian biology well enough. It was the tension in the air. Every human she saw looked stressed and tired. Soldiers were everywhere, carrying weapons that seemed too heavy for civilian streets. "Investigator Neela," said a gruff voice. "I am Commander Do-hyun. I will be your liaison during your investigation." Neela studied the human. He was perhaps 50 years old, with gray hair and a face lined with worry. His military uniform was pristine, but his eyes showed exhaustion that went bone deep. "Commander," Neela replied, "I appreciate your cooperation. I would like to begin by examining the sites where deaths occurred." "That will not be possible," Do-hyun said flatly. "Excuse me? Those areas are under quarantine for security reasons. I can provide you with reports and evidence, but direct access is restricted." Neela felt her fur bristle with annoyance. "Commander, I have full authority from the Galactic Council. You cannot refuse me access. I can and I am," Do-hyun replied. "For your own safety." They stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Neela nodded slowly. "Very well. Show me what you can." Over the next week, Neela interviewed survivors, examined evidence, and studied reports. What she found confused her. The human military was clearly engaged in major operations across multiple cities, but they were not hunting aliens. They were hunting something else. "What are your soldiers doing?" she asked Do-hyun one evening as they watched a patrol move through downtown Seoul. "Securing the population," he replied automatically. "From what?" Do-hyun said nothing. Neela tried a different approach. "Commander, I have interviewed 23 witnesses. They all describe hearing strange sounds before the attacks. Clicking noises. Scraping. One survivor said she saw something moving in the shadows, but it was gone before she could focus on it. What is hunting aliens on your world?" "I cannot tell you that," Do-hyun said quietly. "Cannot or will not." He turned to look at her, and in his eyes she saw something unexpected. Guilt. "Both," he said finally. That night, Neela's investigation took a dramatic turn. Her communication device received an alert. Code Black, Busan sector. A military unit was responding to an incident. Neela immediately ordered her shuttle to take her there, ignoring Do-hyun's protests. By the time she arrived, the scene was chaos. Military vehicles surrounded an office building. Soldiers in heavy armor were carrying bodies out. Neela pushed past the guards, using her council authority to gain entry. Inside was a slaughterhouse. 4 aliens lay dead, their bodies torn apart just like all the others. But there were also 3 human soldiers dead, their armor ripped open like paper. Blood covered everything. The walls were scratched and gouged. "Get her out of here," someone shouted. Neela ignored them, pulling out her scanner and recording everything. She saw claw marks on the walls, too large to be from any earth animal she knew about. She saw acid burns on the floor. She saw signs of a fight that had been brutal and fast. "What did this?" she demanded of a young soldier who was vomiting in the corner. "I do not know," the soldier gasped. "It was so fast. We heard clicking sounds and then it was here. We shot it, but it just kept moving. Captain Esel managed to drive it off with the flamethrower." "Where did it go?" "Into the sewers." "They always go into the sewers." "They?" Neela grabbed the soldier's arm. "How many are there?" "I do not know," the soldier repeated, her eyes wide with shock. "Nobody knows." Do-hyun arrived moments later, furious. "You were ordered to stay away from Code Black situations." "You have been lying to the council," Neela shot back. "Humans are not killing aliens. Something else is. Something you already knew about." Do-hyun's jaw tightened, but he did not deny it. Neela made a decision. "I want to see your classified files. All of them. Or I will report that Earth is hiding critical information and recommend immediate quarantine of your entire planet. If you do that, billions of humans will die," Do-hyun said quietly. "Then tell me the truth." He stared at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Come with me." They traveled to a military facility deep underground. Do-hyun led her through security checkpoints that required genetic scans and code words. Finally, they reached a secure briefing room where a woman in a lab coat waited. "Investigator Neela," the woman said, her voice shaking. "My name is Dr. Sunhee. I am one of the senior researchers on the Mongoose Project." "What is the Mongoose Project?" Neela asked. Sunhee looked at Do-hyun, who nodded permission. Then she began to speak, and Neela felt her blood run cold. 70 years ago, Sunhee said, before humans made first contact with galactic civilization, we were fighting among ourselves. Several nations were developing biological weapons. One program run in secret created something new. They called it Project Chimera. She activated a holographic display showing old photographs and documents. The scientists wanted to create the perfect soldier. Something that could hunt enemy combatants with perfect efficiency. They combined genetic material from multiple Earth predators. They enhanced it with engineered viruses. They created something that could track humans by their pheromones, that could learn and adapt, that could survive almost anywhere. "They created a weapon," Neela whispered. "Yes, and it worked too well. The creatures were intelligent. They were patient. They waited until they were strong enough, and then they escaped. The laboratory was destroyed. The scientists died, and the creatures spread into Earth's ecosystem." Sunhee's hands were shaking as she changed the image. It showed a map of Earth with red zones spreading across continents. "We have been fighting them for 70 years. Sometimes we push them back. Sometimes they push us back. We have lost entire cities. Millions of humans have died. We keep it secret because we fear what the galaxy would do if they knew." Would you trade with a planet infested with perfect predators? Why did the ban matter? Neela asked, though she was starting to understand. Because the creatures hunt using behavioral patterns and pheromone signatures, Do-Yun answered. They were designed to hunt humans specifically. But they can adapt. Each new species they encounter, they learn from. And now, he activated another image. This one showed a creature captured on security footage. It was barely visible, just a shadow and a glimpse of something wrong. Too many limbs, armor-plated skin, eyes that reflected light like a cat's. Now they hunt anything with complex thought patterns, Sun-Hee finished. Every alien that came to Earth was a new teacher for them. They are evolving faster than we can adapt. And the worst part? She pulled up a final image that made Neela's heart stop. It was a scan of a cargo ship leaving Earth. They are spreading. We detected biosignatures on 3 ships that left Earth last month. They are stowing away on vessels. Your people brought them here, and now they are carrying them across the galaxy. Neela sat down slowly, her legs suddenly weak. How many worlds? We do not know, Do-Yun admitted. But we have received coded messages from 3 colony worlds reporting attacks that match the pattern. The Council needs to know, Neela said. They will panic, Sun-Hee replied. They will quarantine Earth and let billions of humans die. They will panic regardless, Neela said firmly, when these creatures start breeding on their worlds. This is not just Earth's problem anymore. You made this horror, but we spread it. Now we all have to deal with it. She stood and looked at both humans. I am returning to the Council immediately. Prepare every bit of research and data you have. If we are going to fight this, we need to do it together. As she left, she heard Sun-Hee crying. They will never forgive us. No, Do-Hyun agreed quietly. They will not. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every delegate watched the holographic display in stunned silence as the security footage played. A creature moved through the darkness of an Earth warehouse, its body flowing like liquid shadow. When it struck, it was faster than the eye could follow. The alien tourist never had a chance. This is one of hundreds of recordings, Neela said, her voice echoing in the silent chamber. These creatures have been on Earth for 70 years. Humans have been fighting a secret war just to survive. And now, because we refuse to listen to their warnings, the creatures are spreading across the galaxy. Trade Minister Cross stood, his face pale beneath his green scales. This cannot be real. This must be some human deception. Shut up, Cross, High Arbiter Velkson said quietly. The chamber gasped. Velkson never spoke so bluntly. Show us the colony reports, Neela changed the display. 3 different worlds appeared, each with red emergency markers. Colony Theta 9 reported attacks 3 weeks ago. 700 dead. Colony Belgros reported similar incidents 2 weeks ago. 1,000 dead. Colony Havensport reported them 5 days ago. The death toll is still climbing. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. Analysis of the attack patterns matches what we see on Earth. The creatures are already establishing themselves on new worlds, and they are breeding. The chamber erupted in panicked shouting. Delegates were calling their home worlds, demanding information, screaming questions. Velgson hammered his gavel repeatedly, but order did not return. On Earth, General Jae-sung stood in the underground command center, watching live feeds from a dozen cities. He was 65 years old and had spent 40 of those years fighting creatures that most of humanity did not even know existed. His face was lined with old scars, souvenirs from battles fought in darkness. Sir, reported Captain Borum from his orbital station, we are detecting increased activity in sectors 4, 7, and 12. The creatures are responding to something. To the alien presence, Jae-sung replied grimly. The pheromone signatures from multiple species are triggering their hunting instinct. How many unauthorized ships in orbit? 43, sir. And more arriving every hour. The Council has not yet issued a travel ban. Jae-sung slammed his fist on the console. Fools. Every ship that lands brings new scents, new targets. The creatures are learning faster than ever. In Seoul, a research facility was working frantically. Dr. Young-soo, a civilian scientist who had dedicated his life to understanding the creatures, was analyzing new data with growing horror. They are changing, he said to his assistant. Look at these genetic samples from the Busan incident last week. Compare them to samples from 5 years ago. His assistant, a young woman named Jisoo, pulled up the comparison on her screen. Her face went pale. The genetic diversity has increased by 40%. How is that possible? They are incorporating alien DNA, Young-Soo explained, his voice shaking. Every time they consume a new species, they adapt. They are evolving in real time. This one has resistance to energy weapons. This one has reinforced armor plating. This one has improved sensory organs. What are you saying? I am saying we are making them stronger. Every alien that comes to Earth and dies is making these things more dangerous. Jisoo stared at the data. We need to tell the general. I already did. He said we have known this might happen. That is why they wanted the ban. Meanwhile, the creatures were indeed changing. In the sewers beneath Tokyo, a pack of 7 gathered around a fresh kill. The alien they had caught was some kind of energy-based being, its body giving off heat and light even in death. The pack leader, larger and more scarred than the others, approached the body cautiously. It made a clicking sound, calling the others to feed. As they consumed the alien's flesh, genetic information transferred into their systems. Their bodies began to change. One grew bioluminescent patches on its skin. Another developed the ability to sense heat signatures from further away. A third grew more resistant to extreme temperatures. The pack leader raised its head and made a different sound. A sound of satisfaction, a sound of hunger for more. Back at the council, Neela was introducing General Jae-sung via holographic link. The old soldier appeared before the assembled delegates, his military bearing evident even in projection form. Honored Council, Jae-sung began. I am General Jae-sung of Earth Defense Command. I have fought these creatures for 40 years. I have lost more soldiers than most of your worlds have in total population. I am here to tell you the truth you need to hear. He gestured, and the display changed to show a map of Earth with red zones covering nearly 30% of the surface. These are contaminated areas, places where the creatures have established nests. We cannot reclaim them without massive casualties. We contain them. We fight holding actions, but we cannot eliminate them, not with our current technology and resources. Why did you not ask for help? Demanded Whisper of Tides. Would you have believed us? Jae-sung asked simply. Before this moment, would any of you have believed that such creatures existed? Or would you have assumed humans were lying to justify isolation? The chamber fell silent. We stayed quiet because we were ashamed, Jae-sung continued. Humans created these things. We played God and made monsters. We thought we could contain our mistake without inflicting it on the galaxy. We were wrong. What do we do now? Felkson asked, and for the first time the High Arbiter sounded uncertain. We fight, Jae-sung replied. Together. Earth has weapons and tactics that work against these creatures. We have experience. We can teach you. But you need to act quickly. Every day the creatures establish themselves on more worlds. Ambassador Ji-won stepped forward then, looking directly at the council. We tried to protect you. You laughed at us. You called us paranoid and primitive. Now you know the truth. Now you see what we have been fighting while you mocked us. Is this revenge? Cross asked quietly. Is this how humans repay our insults? No, Ji-won said tiredly. This is how humans try to fix their mistakes even when nobody helps them. Even when nobody believes them. We will share everything we know. We will send our soldiers to fight on your worlds. We will do this because it is the right thing to do, not because you deserve it. What do you want in return? Felkson asked. Resources, General Jae-sung answered immediately. Technology. Manufacturing capability. We need to produce weapons and detection equipment on a massive scale. We need ships to transport strike teams. We need every world to implement quarantine protocols and containment procedures. And we need it yesterday. The council went into emergency session. For 3 days, delegates argued and debated and screamed at each other. But in the end, the vote was unanimous. A joint species defense initiative was formed with Earth at its center. Humans would lead the fight against the creatures because humans knew how to fight them. General Jae-sung was appointed Supreme Commander. He stood in the council chamber and looked at the assembled delegates with an expression that was equal parts determination and sorrow. You wanted to visit Earth? He said quietly. You wanted to see our world and our people. Now you will see what we have been hiding. You will see the scars and the ruins and the mass graves. You will understand why we begged you to stay away. He activated one final image. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue, but overlaid on it were casualty statistics that ran into the millions. Deaths spanning 70 years. Children, civilians, soldiers, all lost to creatures that humanity had created. This is our shame, Jae-sung said. Now it is our shared burden. May whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all. In the silence that followed, Dr. Youngsu's latest report came through. It was a simple message that made everyone's blood run cold. Creatures detected on 17 more worlds. They are breeding exponentially. Time to containment failure unknown. The war had begun. The crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chamber reflected light from 1,000 different stars. Ambassador G1 stood at the center platform, her dark suit a sharp contrast against the colorful bodies of hundreds of alien delegates surrounding her. She had rehearsed this moment for months, but her hands still trembled slightly as she held the datapad. Honored members of the Council, G1 began, her voice steady despite her nerves. Earth formally requests a complete ban on unauthorized visits to our homeworld. All travel must be approved by our government before any ship enters our solar system. The chamber fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter started. It began with Trade Minister Cross, a massive reptilian creature whose scales shimmered green and gold. His booming laugh echoed through the chamber like thunder. Within moments, dozens of other delegates joined in. The sound was deafening. High Arbiter Velkson, who led the council from his elevated throne, raised one of his 4 arms for silence. His insect-like face showed what might have been amusement. Ambassador G1, he said, his voice clicking and buzzing through the translator. Earth has been part of our galactic community for only 50 years. You are asking for privileges that no other world demands. What possible reason could justify such paranoia? G1 glanced at Dr. Hyun, who stood behind her in the human delegation area. The younger woman looked pale but nodded encouragement. G1 turned back to face the council. We have security concerns that are unique to our world, G1 said carefully. We cannot share all details, but we strongly advise that this ban is necessary for the safety of all visitors. This triggered another wave of laughter, louder than before. Safety. Cross bellowed, rising from his seat. Ambassador, my world has welcomed visitors for 3,000 years. We have never needed such restrictions. Are humans so dangerous that we should fear visiting your primitive planet? Or perhaps, added a flowing jellyfish-like delegate named Whisper of Tides, humans are simply afraid of us? Is this xenophobia disguised as policy? Jiwon felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice calm. This is not about fear of other species. This is about protecting visitors from dangers that exist on Earth. Dangers that we have been managing, but that could become much worse if... Enough. Velkson interrupted, waving his arm dismissively. Dr. Hyun, you are listed as a xenobiologist. Perhaps you can provide actual evidence for these mysterious dangers. Dr. Hyun stepped forward quickly, her fingers moving across her own datapad. Yes, High Arbiter. I have prepared extensive documentation about... Summarize, Velkson commanded. We do not have time for human dramatics. Hyun swallowed hard. There are biological threats on Earth that respond to certain stimuli. The presence of multiple alien species could trigger a cascade effect that we cannot control. The data shows biological threats? Cross laughed again. Every world has dangerous animals, Ambassador. My planet has predators that could swallow your human ships whole. We do not ban visitors because of wildlife. These are not ordinary predators, Jiwon said, her voice rising slightly. They were what? Velkson leaned forward, his compound eyes glittering. Created by humans, perhaps? Is this an admission that your species has been developing biological weapons? The chamber erupted in angry buzzing and shouting. Jiwon felt the situation spinning out of control. No, she said firmly, though her heart pounded. I am not admitting to any weapons program. I am simply requesting that the Council respect Earth's sovereign right to control access to our homeworld. For everyone's safety, a small bird-like delegate named Chur spoke up, her voice surprisingly loud. I visited Earth last year without permission. I walked through your city of Seoul. I ate your food. I met your people. Nothing harmed me. This ban seems unnecessary. You were lucky, Dr. Hyun said quietly, but several delegates heard her. Lucky? Cross's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat, human? It is a warning, Jiwon said, stepping in front of Hyun protectively. We are not threatening anyone. We are trying to prevent a catastrophe. Please, honored council, trust us on this matter. Do not send your people to Earth without our approval. Velkson stood, his full height impressive even among the diverse species present. The Galactic Council was founded on principles of free travel and open exchange. We do not grant special restrictions without clear evidence of necessity. Ambassador Jiwon, you have provided nothing but vague warnings and fear. He gestured to the assembled delegates. I call for a vote. Should Earth be granted this ban, or should we reject it and maintain our open travel policies? Jiwon wanted to scream. She wanted to show them everything to make them understand. But the data was classified at the highest levels. Earth's government had forbidden her from revealing the full truth. They believed that if the galaxy knew what really existed on Earth, panic would spread. Humanity would be quarantined, cut off from trade and technology they desperately needed. So she could only watch as the vote proceeded. One by one, the delegates signaled their choice. Jiwon saw the patterns of light on the voting board. Red meant rejection of the ban. Green meant approval. The board was almost entirely red. The council has spoken, Velkson announced. Earth's request is denied by a vote of 473 to 12. Human space remains open to free galactic travel under standard regulations. Jiwon closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she saw Cross smiling at her, his sharp teeth visible. Do not worry, Ambassador, the reptilian said mockingly. I am sure your imaginary threats will not harm any of my people when I organize a diplomatic tour to Earth next month. Perhaps seeing our presence will help humans overcome their irrational fears. Jiwon gathered her datapad and notes slowly. Dr. Hyun touched her arm gently. We tried, Hyun whispered. It was not enough, Jiwon replied. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Jiwon turned one last time to face the council. Her voice carried clearly in the suddenly quiet room. High Arbiter Velkson, honored delegates, I have delivered my government's warning in good faith. You have rejected it. I want it entered into the official record that Earth advised against unauthorized travel. We cannot be held responsible for what happens to those who ignore this warning. Your objection is noted, Velkson said dismissively. This session is concluded. As Jiwon and Hyun walked through the long corridors leading away from the chamber, they could still hear laughter echoing behind them. Jiwon pulled out her communication device and sent a priority message back to Earth. Request denied. They are coming. Activate Protocol Mongoose. May God help us all. Dr. Hyun was crying softly as they walked. They do not understand, she said. They have no idea what we have been fighting all these years. They will learn, Jiwon said grimly. And I pray they survive the lesson. 2 years had passed since the creatures were revealed to the galaxy. 2 years of desperate fighting, of worlds lost and won, of alliances forged in blood and fire. The Galactic Council chamber looked different now. Battle maps covered the crystalline walls. Military officers from 100 species worked at stations that had once been reserved for diplomatic ceremonies. Ambassador Jiwon stood at the center platform, but she wore a different title now. Secretary General of the Joint Species Defense Initiative. Her hair had gone completely gray, but her eyes were sharp and determined. Report from Sector 9, an aide announced. Colony Silvershore has been successfully quarantined. All creatures eliminated with minimal civilian casualties. Good, Jiwon replied. Captain Borum, what is the status of the training programs? Borum's image appeared on the main display. He was now commanding a fleet of mixed-species warships that protected the most vulnerable worlds. We have graduated another 5,000 recruits this month. They are being deployed to hot zones across the galaxy. On a dozen different worlds, alien soldiers trained under human instructors. They learned to recognize the clicking sounds that preceded an attack. They learned to use flamethrowers and sonic weapons that disrupted the creature's sensory organs. They learned to move in tight formations and never, ever separate from the group. Captain Isol, who had survived the Busan incident, now ran the largest training facility on Mars. She watched as a group of insectoid aliens practiced room-clearing techniques. Again, she shouted, faster! These things move like lightning. If you hesitate, you die. The aliens repeated the exercise, their movements becoming smoother with each repetition. Isol felt a surge of pride. 2 years ago, these beings had been terrified civilians. Now they were soldiers who could hold their own against humanity's greatest mistake. But the cost had been terrible. 17 worlds had been completely evacuated, their populations relocated to safer systems. The creatures had established such deep infestations that reclaiming those worlds would take decades, if it was even possible. 3 billion sentient beings had died in the initial outbreaks. Entire species had been pushed to the edge of extinction. In a research facility on Earth's moon, Dr. Young-soo worked with a team of alien scientists. They had made a breakthrough 3 months ago, and now they were refining it into a weapon that could change everything. The synthetic pheromone is stable, Young-Soo reported to Dr. Hyun, who now coordinated all xenobiological research. It mimics the death signal that creatures emit when they die. If we deploy it in high concentrations, it should trigger their flight response. How large an area can we cover? Hyun asked. A city block with one dispenser. We need to manufacture millions of them. Then we will. Earth has become the galaxy's armory. If we can make it, we will. And Earth had indeed transformed. The planet that had once begged for isolation was now the beating heart of galactic defense. Factories that had been hidden underground for decades now operated openly, producing weapons and equipment for Allied forces. Orbital shipyards that had been disguised as civilian stations now churned out warships designed to hunt creatures through space. But more than weapons, Earth provided knowledge and experience. Human veterans who had fought in the shadows for decades now taught others how to survive. They shared tactics learned through 70 years of bitter warfare. They explained the creatures' patterns, their weaknesses, their tendencies. Investigator Neela, who had become one of humanity's strongest advocates, stood before the Reformed Council and made her weekly report. The creatures are being pushed back on 43 worlds, she announced. Containment is holding on another 72. We estimate that we have killed approximately 60% of the total creature population across the galaxy. And the remaining 40%? High Arbiter Velkson asked. He had aged too in the past 2 years. The weight of his initial mistakes hung heavy on him. Still dangerous. Still breeding. This war is not over. But we are winning, Velkson said, and it was almost a question. We are surviving, Neela corrected gently. That is all we can say for certain. In the ruins of Colony Theta 9, the first world to be attacked, a memorial stood. It bore the names of every being who had died there, human and alien alike. General Jae-sung visited it whenever he was in the sector, which was often. He stood before the memorial now, his old body stiff from too many battles. Beside him stood Trade Minister Cross, who had become an unlikely ally in the war. I owe you an apology, Cross said quietly. When you first warned us, I laughed. I called you paranoid. I led the vote against your ban. I know, Jae-sung replied without anger. 700 of my people died in the first attack on this world. 700 lives that might have been saved if I had listened to you. Perhaps. Or perhaps the creatures would have found another way off Earth. We will never know. Cross looked at the human general with something like awe. How do you bear it? Knowing that your species created these things? The same way you bear knowing that your people spread them, Jae-sung replied. We acknowledge our mistakes. We fight to fix them, and we hope that our children will forgive us. Back on Earth in the underground command center, a priority alert came through. Dr. Young-Soo's team had completed their work. The synthetic pheromone was ready for mass deployment. We are calling it Operation Mongoose, Young-Soo explained to the assembled commanders. In honor of the protocol that started this. The dispensers will be deployed to every contested world simultaneously. When activated, they should drive the creatures away from population centers and into prepared kill zones. How confident are you? Jiwon asked. 70%, maybe 80%. The creatures might adapt. They always do. But it will buy us time, Captain Borum added. Time to evacuate. Time to regroup. Time to save lives. Then we proceed, Jiwon decided. Alert all forces. Operation Mongoose begins in 72 hours. The operation was the largest coordinated military action in galactic history. Ships from 100 worlds moved into position. Soldiers from 1,000 species prepared for battle. And at the center of it all were humans who had lived with this horror longer than anyone else. When the dispensers activated, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Creatures across the galaxy suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to flee. They abandoned nests they had spent months building. They retreated from cities they had been infiltrating. They fled into the wilderness, into space, into the kill zones where soldiers waited. The battle was fierce. The creatures fought with the desperation of cornered predators. But for the first time since the war began, the Allied forces were not fighting defensively. They were hunting. 3 days later, preliminary reports came in. 60% of contested areas had been reclaimed. Creature populations were reduced by another 20%. It was not victory, but it was progress. Jiwon stood before the council one final time to give her report. The chamber was filled not just with delegates, but with the people they represented. The broadcast was being transmitted to every world in the galaxy. 2 years ago, Jiwan began, humanity came before this council and begged for a ban on travel to Earth. We were laughed at. We were mocked. We were called paranoid and primitive. You voted against us and you paid the price for that decision. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. But humanity does not seek revenge. We do not demand apologies or reparations. We simply ask that you remember this lesson. When someone warns you of danger, listen. When someone who has suffered tries to protect you from their mistakes, believe them. She looked directly at the camera, knowing that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching. Earth created these creatures in our arrogance. We thought we could control nature, could weaponize life itself. We were wrong, and we have paid for that mistake with millions of lives over 70 years. You spread those creatures in your arrogance, thinking you knew better than us. Now we all pay together. But here is what else humanity learned in those 70 years. We learned that survival requires cooperation. We learned that pride is a luxury no species can afford. We learned that the most important thing is not who was right or wrong, but who is willing to fight when it matters. She gestured to the battle maps on the walls, to the mixed species crews working the stations, to the symbols of unity that now filled the chamber. We are not finished. This war may last another decade or more, but we will win it together because that is the only way to win, and when it is over, perhaps the galaxy will be better for it. Perhaps we will remember to listen to each other. Perhaps we will remember that every species has something to teach, and every warning deserves respect. High Arbiter Valixin stood and bowed deeply to Jiwan, a gesture of profound respect that made the entire chamber gasp. Earth warned us, he said simply. Earth tried to protect us. And when we refused to listen, Earth still fought for us. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. We do not want debt, Jiwan replied quietly. We want partnership. We want a galaxy where when someone says there is danger, others reply, how can we help? That is the only payment we seek. On Earth, in the city of Seoul where this had all begun, life was slowly returning to normal. The streets were still heavily patrolled, but people walked them with less fear.